Join us as we delve deep into lifetime care and leading ourselves in the right direction.
Misinformation kills people. Misleading people shortens their lives or their quality of life. So we're here today to have a conversation about misleading dialogue. The idea that caring for someone for their lifetime is overutilization.
I appreciate the boldness that you started this conversation with about misleading information. We as chiropractors are misleading ourselves. Forget about the people around us. If we think that caring for somebody for 12 adjustments or 16 adjustments is helping that person in terms of living their life with a higher quality of life.
Right. Treatment, sure, make it as short as you want. You're treating a disease, you're treating a diagnosis, but you care for a person. And when do you stop caring for people? So lifetime care at hello isn't something that represents overutilization, and it doesn't even represent a choice. You know, people, well, I don't know if I'm going to choose lifetime care. If you're breathing, you have life. If you're in the midst of life and you're doing anything, you are applying care to that life. The care you are generating is either productive towards a positive outcome or destructive to a positive outcome, or productive towards a destructive outcome. But there's no gray area, and there's never an idle moment. So you are never not in care of your life at any given time. Hence, lifetime care is absolute. The thing in question is, what's the quality and the competency of the choices you make in rendering lifetime care? Do you commit to your life of drinking the right amount of water? Do you commit to your life of reading and problem solving, using your gray matter in a way that you exercise the brain for the rest of your life? Do you exercise in your life your cardiovascular potential? Well, if you exercise the focus of adjusting your central nervous system through the adjustment of the human spinal column, of course you're doing that for the rest of your life. If you miss adjustments, that's a demonstration of a form of care. Dysfunctional as it is, it's a form of care. So you and I are here to talk about this myth, this misleading and incredibly inappropriately delivered conversation that lifetime care suggests inappropriate overutilization of care.
Yeah, I appreciate that we're focusing here on the outcomes and the benefits. So if we want to get to help people make choices that will impact generations to come, we have to increase the quality of the decisions that they're making short term. So, and we have to look at ourselves. We have to recognize that we're misleading ourselves if we don't present to people that their initial findings are requiring, your body requires this amount of care for the initial phase of correcting the problem.
Right.
So, you know, I appreciate that the concept about being misleading and A&D, I want us to recognize we're misleading ourselves if we help somebody to imagine that what we're doing is just going to get them out of pain and then they're going to live differently. That's a total misrepresentation of what we know after decades and decades in chiropractic, that if people don't choose to live differently, if people don't learn by coming to workshops, by hearing over and over again in every single adjustment what they need to be doing in order to correct and prevent the subluxations, then we're misleading them.
Right.
So I appreciate this.
Well, let's compartmentalize some of this. So it begins with you, doctor, when you write a plan of care. That care is for a human being. Treatment is for a third-party payer. Care is for a human being. And when you write that care, the plan of care is designed based upon the objectives of your technique and the physical needs of the patient. So we have to write all this out. We teach multiple day financial camps, care plan camps, where we teach people how to begin to architect true plans of care and true plans of treatment. We're not dismissing that treatment plans don't need to exist, just don't act like they're the same as care plans. All right, people need care plans, insurance companies need treatment plans. So getting back to this question, doctors, going over the fact and the evidence that if you're in a life, in the time you're living it, you're caring for it. So lifetime care isn't an option. The question is, what is the rendering of care that you consider lifetime care? For some chiropractors, that would mean just getting checked once every 6 weeks.
Wait. You went really fast on that. That's like one of my favorite things that in our CLC community, that we really slow down and remind ourselves about. So could you say it again? Do you mind?
About lifetime care?
Yeah.
So, get chiropractic out of the conversation. Say I'm a water advocate. There is a lifetime application of how I will saturate my cells with water that is either more constructive or destructive. It's not an option to have lifetime discussions about water. You know, like, well, that's overutilization. Just stop selling that lifetime watering thing. You know, well, we're not going to undo that. And just like you're not going to undo the lifetime application that the human spine is constantly compromised, and the human spine can be adjusted and idealized. So that happening isn't a conversation. The question is, what's the quality of that happening? So getting back to the water, life is playing out, and the time of our life is always ticking. And in every moment, you're rendering care to that life. So lifetime care is not overutilization. It is an outcome evidential in each moment it's happening. What we would be wise to appraise and give commentary on is what's the quality of your lifetime care, whether it's water or it's supplements, nutrients, and so on, or more idealized. I mean, let's face it, people in triage get it. The food you eat's irrelevant if you're not drinking copious amounts of water, because water has a far more solvent, instantaneous impact upon vitality than food, but both are life-sustaining, so they're both vital. But oxygen supersedes that. So a triage person knows, I don't care if someone, hasn't eaten in the day or is in malnourishment or shock from, metabolite imbalances, if they have a blocked airway, that vital need supersedes it. Well, obviously, triage people know the most critical vital need to be talking about in lifetime appraisal is brain connection to tissue and tissue and body connection back to brain. It's the central nervous system. So we're blessed in chiropractic that there's nothing that supersedes the necessary presence of conversation. Then how are you rendering lifetime care to your central nervous system? All right. So was that slowed down enough?
That was beautiful.
That was beautiful.
Emotional.
So now the question is, why would you talk about anything with anyone other than lifetime care? And what are some of the reasons? Some people are scared. I don't want to be disliked by someone because the patient said, well, you're not one of those chiropractors who tries to keep me coming back, are you?
Or, you're going to sell somebody on care for their entire life.
You're selling. First of all, let's reel that one back a little bit. Okay. So many people don't pay attention to reading the definitions of words or studying the application of them in life. The most high virtue anyone can exercise in vocation is sales. The only detriment to sales is if you're a degenerate yourself in having selected the wrong thing to sell.
That's a good point.
So the degenerate needs to be pointed out for who he or she is because they've chosen a degenerate thing to sell. You know, the old joke with Steve Jobs and whoever the guy was that he hired to take over the running of Apple, and he said, do you want to continue to sell sugar water or you want to change the world with computers with me, or something to that effect. So nothing against, if your thing is selling sugar water, then go sell sugar water. Sales is a process of succeeding at informing people of what they have options for. I want to sell my children on being virtuous. I want to sell my wife on behaviors from me that suggest the wisdom in us staying together. I want to sell my neighbors on the virtue of us all cleaning up our leaves every fall together rather than one at a time. I want to sell my kids on the virtue of brushing and flossing. So sales is never not happening. You're selling people on being a degenerate with your vocabulary if you're always dropping F-bombs and terrible language. You're selling people that that's an okay way of life. So the question is, what are you selling? And in chiropractic, we have the opportunity to educate, inform, and sell people on the most virtuous physical attention they can apply to the most vital of systems, the central nervous system. So there's some measure to which a chiropractor has lost their minds, or maybe never had one, if they're not teaching the virtue of lifetime care. That doesn't mean that everybody needs lifetime care at daily adjustments or 3 times a day or once a week or once every other week or once a month. I don't know what your lifetime care would be. It would be based upon the objectives of the technique you chose, the evidence, the published data, the experiential process you encounter, and the physical needs of that unique person and their situation. But no one doesn't need a lifetime care curriculum written for their excellence, right?
Yeah.
So
let's tie together some takeaways that people that are here engaged in this conversation, which is very significant and deep and has applications in every aspect of our lives. We picked out 3 different statements that we are going to challenge you, all of us, to dig deeply in and to see benefit of slowing down and really absorbing them for yourselves, and then being brave enough to say them out loud so other people can have an opportunity to hear the truth, respond to the truth, and act differently. So the first one comes in part of our statements in the second day when we're going over a report with a patient, and that's that statement: you will need to do things differently in the way we outline for the rest of your life.
bam.
And some people say that, but they breeze right past it and they don't recognize the impact. That means that we as the doctors and teams are required on a daily basis of interacting with people, teaching them how they're living differently. We can't just check out that person's been coming for 20 years. We have to check in with what really matters is they're there to learn something new on every single appointment.
So I just completed a report of findings in the report hour between 10 and 11:30. I completed a report of findings for a couple. The woman has finished her bachelor degree. She's getting her master's now in social work. And the husband proclaimed he was 4 years sober. But he said that to me only because of something I dribbled in, which was that statement. You will never be done. You're going to need to take care of yourself differently for the rest of your life. What's more important is the process than the outcome. And he said, man, I don't know if you're a program guy, but people who recover and last understand you're never done. And you're constantly going to work the process because the process is more important than the outcome. And it gave me goosebumps to see the continuity. And we see that a lot. People who understand conviction and long-term sustainable recovery from many different things get real chiropractic. Yeah. So chiropractors, one reason they don't do it is they're scared. They want the acceptance of an insurance company or the acceptance of somebody who isn't well educated or informed on lifetime care. So they're making choices from fear, not competence or faith or understanding. Another reason some people might not exercise clarity and communication on lifetime care is they themselves haven't worked on exercising the competence on how to talk about it. That it's not just some gimmick. People use sales like it's dirty and they lump everything into something dirty. You're selling someone on something very clean, but you have to learn to speak it.
Well, remember in schools, in chiropractic schools, they're not being educated on how to help people understand the principle of chiropractic. Like you were saying, it takes time and it's a process, and it's not going to be that you're checking the box in 8 adjustments that person's going to change their paradigm of health and wellness. It takes hundreds of adjustments before that occurs. And we're not taught that. So a lot of people aren't doing it because they never got exposed to it. So if that's the case, then help people share this video and allow more people in our profession to recognize the value of this conversation.
Yeah.
So the first statement that we made that we want you to take away, which is you will need to do things differently in the way we outline for the rest of your life. And the second statement that I really love that we always go over is that you will learn to do things differently. That's why in terms of education, it's really more important than their adjustment. And learning to learn things differently, learning to relearn what they think they've learned about exercise and posture, the way they are sitting, their ergonomics, they're going to learn things differently. And the third statement that's really, really key is you will need to do the work. And if you're not here to do the work, this will not be the right office for you. And to not be scared to make that statement, but be honest. It is a lot of work. It's going to take a lot of work and time and energy for that person to commit to enough adjustments, to keep coming in, to learn, to change their life, and just tell them. And you know it's a lot of work, and you're training, you're here in this conversation because you want to do the work because you see the value and benefit.
Sweet. So we opened on the conversation being about lifetime care, and that there are many misleading conversations out there that lead our profession away from its higher usefulness. All right. It's neat that people who get chiropractic adjustments have headaches that go away or low back pain that goes away. And I know there's some people that's all they want to do. They love the idea of using their hands to adjust someone so they feel better. And there's more to it. We can have kids just to have kids, or we can look at all the different chapters in our lives with kids so we prosper in each age differently. Chiropractic is here for all ages, and chiropractic adjustments work right for the entirety of the life. And, so I ask patients, I ask chiropractors in our care plan training intensives that take 2 days to carry out, if you have someone who's 8, 9, 10 years old, and you have total authority to care for them the way you know is best, and you love them more than life itself, you would give your life for this child, how frequently would you check them? I didn't say adjust them, check them. And when I really quiet the room down and I get people to really think about what I'm saying, I'm not talking about insurance, non-insurance. I'm not talking about compliance and being non-compliance. I'm not talking about selling someone on some financial plan. I'm not talking about random people. I'm talking about someone you love the most. You sincerely, if harm's way was inevitable, you would run in front of the bus, throw that child to safety, and lose your own life. If you're a practicing chiropractor and you can slow down to think about that individual, how frequently would you want your hands and your clinical aptitudes to check them for whether or not they need to get adjusted? Would you check them once a year? Would you check them once every 6 weeks? Would you check them once every month? Would you check them every week? Check them twice a week? How frequently would you want to check them? And whatever that answer is, for multiplicatives of those, for your spouse equivalent, and so on, you start to realize that's what my recommendation is for lifetime care. And then I walk people through writing assignments to compare that ideal to what you actually live and feel day to day. Are you really educating / selling your patients on the competence of that level of decision making?
And it really is what their body requires. It's not really our recommendations ever. It's what their body requires based on how they've invested in caring for their spine. So I appreciate this conversation. I love just starting out with, how are we misleading people around us, including ourselves? And what are we going to do differently as a result? So it's our hope doing these podcasts that we're bridging people together, that we're challenging you with something that you already are maybe applying, and there's an A&D to how you're applying it and engaging it, and sharing it with community. Share it with other chiropractors. Open up conversations. Let them know that there's places in the profession, namely TLC, where people are having conversations like this at seminars, in coaching, digitally, online, many different ways to interact and engage in conversations just like this that have lasting impact for generations to come.
Yeah. So come to events, pop in on phone calls, write us emails. We're going to continue to have these conversations. This is what we love to do.
Thank you for watching, and look out for our new episode in just 1 week.